Today we're going to be talking about a few different ideas. The New Thought movement, of which we are a part, started during the 1800s, 1830s mostly, though a lot of these thinkers who came from Europe came before. As a spiritual movement with roots in metaphysical beliefs, New Thought has helped guide social changes and metaphysical thought throughout the 1800s up until now. The New Thought movement has helped people achieve a better understanding of divine mysteries through the power of their thinking and through meditation, prayer. The term New Thought signified that one's thought could unlock secrets to living a better life, free from constraints of religious doctrines and dogmas. Before anybody practiced New Thought as a set of beliefs, there were a few influential figures whose teachings contributed to the movement. They preceded it, actually, and some after. The 18th century church, called New Church, there was a man, Emanuel Swedenborg. He extended clear influence on many authors and coming more from a biblical perspective. Then we have Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a teacher of Emerson and others. He was also influential in his philosophical movement of transcendentalism, and that's incorporated into New Thought also. Moving forward, you've all heard of mesmerizing. Well, there was a man, Frank Mesmer. His work on hypnosis drove the work of another famous person who's called the father of New Thought, which is Phineas Parkhurst Quimby from Maine. He was recognized by many people as the founder of New Thought. In Maine, Quimby talked and taught that the mind has the power to heal. And this was approximately late 40s, 1840s through 1850s. Quimby began to practice hypnotism, or mesmerism as it was called. Through this practice and further study, he developed the view that illness is a matter of the mind. In 1859, in Maine, he had an office set up for mental healing. That's a long time ago, if you think about it. 1859, 1959, 2020. So some of the things we're doing, people have been doing for a very, very long time. I pulled out a dictionary and looking at the word mystery. A mystery is something that's difficult or impossible to completely understand or explain. I'm reminded of Joseph Campbell, who advised us years ago, knowing that the churches of the future would not be around. Campbell had this unique pulse on spirituality, and he was talking about the ancient cathedrals in Europe and throughout the world, that they would be destined to become the museums of tomorrow. And only a generation ago he was saying that, and now that's pretty much the case, as most of the cathedrals of Europe are now, in fact, more museums than they are actually churches. That's pretty much the way it's going too in America. And now in the 2020s, it's largely so everywhere. U.S. church membership has declined sharply over the past 25 years. There's a sharp increase in the proportion of the population that has absolutely no religious affiliation. That's all happened in my lifetime and most of yours. Now we know that there's low levels of church membership among millennials, and all of this information we study every Tuesday night in our in our vision group. The challenge is very clear for spiritual centers nationwide, which depend upon loyal and active members to keep our centers open and thriving. So the challenge is, how do we engage the future? That's a big question. We address that every Tuesday night here. And finding ways to engage some of the young adults and bring them into our community, it's a challenge that we share with every other spiritual group in the United States and elsewhere. We might here in New York have a leg up, just a very small leg up, because we've been on this for a year and a half, but we haven't entirely figured it out yet. Church leaders must grapple with the generational slide, which is away from spiritual centers and churches and synagogues. Millennials are much more likely than their elders. They're much less likely to have a religious preference of any kind at all. In a post-COVID world, Americans who are spiritual are forever changing their relationship with their churches and centers too. Now people know they can come to watch a service, get a lesson online. So getting them out the door again and onto a train or to be a part of a community is going to be an ever-increasing challenge. So we can't change people, but for those of us who are still involved in spiritual centers, we need to find ways to change ourselves, to connect with a younger audience, connect with also the people who have become accustomed now to watching services from their living room. These trends are playing out in thousands of churches, and thousands of churches each year are currently closing down. Americans in the future will likely be faced with fewer options for places to go, connect, meditate, and pray, and increasingly they will be doing whatever they do on their own. So what are we doing about this challenge here? With the knowledge in our hands and the willingness to actively step out of denial, see, that's the thing. You could keep on going like we've been going for another probably 5 or 10 years here if you had the resources. But we would clearly be in denial about what's happening. People have suggested to me, well, why don't we join with this group and that group? Why don't we do this and why don't we do that in New York? And I want you to know I have tried. I put out the olive branch and I say, hey, come join with us. Let's join and do this together. Let's learn how to do this better. Let's learn how to do this right. Sadly, though, a lot of my brethren or sisters in ministry, they still suffer under the idea that the old pastor and flock model will somehow pay the rent and pay the salaries and pay the expenses. And I'm here to tell you, whatever revenue we get is probably 1/10 or 1/20, an infinitesimally small part of what it costs to actually keep it all going. So what are we doing? Well, we're a year and a half into an integral growth model, which listens to the ground and listens to the youth and listens to what people want. We're actively involved in a social media campaign where we're engaging with people that are really a third of my age, and we're attempting to have a conversation with them. And we know that they're interested in spirituality, even though they may not be interested in religion or the teaching. They're interested in knowing how things work. So we teach them about the law. We teach them about the law of mind. We teach them how their life can be bettered, improved, and how they can thrive with the teaching that we have. But this is a Herculean effort that we're all doing, and quite honestly, we need all hands on deck to do it. We have learned that 1 in 5 of these centers are thriving, and that's probably an exaggeration because that means 20% are thriving. It probably isn't anything close to 20%. That's an expression we were using back in 2016 when we started addressing the problem nationally. It's probably something more like 1 in 10. But the fact is, there are those that are learning to do it. And we're doing our best every week to come together and to be in that conversation. The visioning process for integral growth is usually a 3-year process. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 years. It's a plan to turn everything around. It's bold, it's completely ambitious, and yet we see it as a way up and out and a way to recreate ourselves so we can be of service to the people of the present and of the future. In New York, we intend to be relevant, which means we intend to have messaging that can connect with people and to help people. Just as we would suggest in our own lives that we learn to be relevant. It doesn't matter if I'm 60-something or you're 50-something or 70-something. It doesn't matter. To be relevant, you have to be current. And to be current, you have to have the willingness to learn. And you have to have the willingness to learn and step out of your comfort zone and sometimes push yourself a little bit. I was taught in religious science years ago that, this teaching is about stretching. Stretching! It means stretching outside of everything you've known and stepping forward to do something different. Because the thing about life is life goes forward with you or without you. And if you want to be on the cutting edge of anything, you've got to do your part. You've got to take the course, take the time, open up the book, get a tutor, hire somebody, do something, whatever you have to do. And I'm promising you, I spend a couple days a week here, Anthony's here, teaching me how to do things that I would not ordinarily be interested in. But the thing is, it's part of the deal. It's part of growing. And you can be a person, like I have a personal friend in another state who simply doesn't want to. It's kind of like I've given up. And that's always your prerogative to say, I'm done. But if you say you're done, you're done. I intend to be up to date. I hope you intend to be up to date also. I want to be with it. This center wants to be with it, and I'm hoping all of you do too. Life is a lifelong learning process, and right now it's no different than it's ever been before. There's new things on the table, new things to deal with, and new things to embrace. I've always maintained from the teaching, if it's in my life, it's in my consciousness, and it's there, and there's something for me to address. So there's no point in cursing what's here and talking about ain't it awful or poor me, because that's not what we do. We understand that everything that happens in life is here for us to grow and to evolve, and it's happening for us, not to us. Each Sunday, I'm reminded of two people. And you might say, now, who's he going to talk about now? Well, it's not Ernest Holmes, though I talk about him each Sunday. Nor is it Emerson, who I talk about often. It's not David Walker, who's had a major influence upon me. It's not even Dr. Bill Tolliver, who had a profound influence on me. And it's not even my father, who had a greater influence on me than all of them. So you're now saying, well, okay, who is this person? Got to be Louise Hay. That's all Greg talks about, some of you say. No, it's not even about Louise. Not even Louise. I have a simple formula on Sunday. Alan Cohen wrote a couple books, one of which was Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And he said, and he brilliantly suggested for those of us who are in the motivational business, ministers, each week we are to aim for the heart. Each week we're here to let people know how wonderful they are. Each week we're here to remind people of the truth of who they are, that they exist as pure potential, that they are one with the one. Each and every message is targeted, and its purpose is to let you know of the truth of you, the greatness of you. So I'm always reminded, I've got to go out there, and I want to go out there and cause you to remember that you are one with the one, and you have everything that you possibly could ever need. And if I do that each week, I've done my job. The second person I'm reminded of each week, for at least a generation now, is Joseph Campbell and his superb advice. Joseph Campbell, author of The Power of the Myth, advised us to keep pointing people to the mystery. Keep pointing people to the mystery every single week. What you're looking for won't be found in the closed cathedrals of Europe or the old First Church or anywhere else. The mystery, the good that was instructed or were instructed to by Campbell is to keep pointing people to the truth of who they are. The greatest mystery of life is that spark of divinity which is within you. The story of the Wizard of Oz, where you're off on a wild goose chase on a yellow brick road and you're encountering flying monkeys and craziness, and you're always looking for something outside of you, where in the end you realize there is no place like home. In home, in you, is what you're looking for. So our job as practitioners and ministers is to keep pointing people to the mystery. Every week, in every class, there is a reminder, pointing them toward the awareness of presence. Presence in them, a love and energy operating through them that's always wooing, always guiding, always trying to get your attention. Call it God in you. Some of you who are really in this teaching, who I call truth students, legitimate truth students, who actually understand metaphysics and the affirmative life that Holmes talked about. Some of you deeply and truly know that it's not a mystery at all. But for the majority of the 7.8 billion people living on planet Earth, they do not have a clue of what you know. The truth that you know that God in you is in you, operating through you, as you, is something that is one of the best kept secrets of all time. Many are seeking and searching everywhere and anywhere. They're searching for this thing that all of you who are in my audience, in my classes, I bombard you with that information week after week after week. But whether you take it into your heart and really understand that you have the power and you have the ability to transform life by means of your consciousness and thoughts, I don't know how many of you get that. But you've been given the greatest gift that anyone could ever give you in this teaching. What we teach and what some of us understand has been the best kept secret of the age. It's been held throughout thousands of years. You might recall the story of King Arthur during the Middle Ages. King Arthur and his people, his knights, were in search of the Holy Grail. It was thought to be the cup used by Jesus. It has come over time to represent something hidden with power, something that can promote happiness, infinite abundance, and health, and long sought after with great significance. Here we are, you and I, with the Holy Grail, or with the equivalent of the Holy Grail in our possession. Here we are, having everything in the world at our disposal and the power to create life and to create the kind of life that we deserve and desire. The thing we possess is so precious, so valuable, that treasuries have been emptied and vaults have been emptied and armies and ships built, searching the world for the very thing that you possess. Huge expeditions and empires have been fought, all seeking this great thing, this precious thing that you already possess. After every journey to and fro, and after every bell has rung and battle has been fought, mountain climbed, sought, after every fortune has been spent in pursuit of this, here we are with this thing that everyone has sought. After all the searching is over, after all you've exhausted yourself looking outside yourself, you'll find the very thing buried deep within you. It's found there, the awareness of it. It's a journey without a distance to a place you probably don't visit very much. It brings you to the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. This presence and power is within you now. The thing that people have searched all corners of the earth for. God in you, the presence in you, the realization that now it's here and it's completely available in you, operating through you. The awakening of that divine fact, the Christ in you, the awakened spirit in you, always wooing you. It's what it does. Always righting wrong conditions, always attempting to get your attention. You have an internal guidance system, and you know you're given free will, and Spirit is always there, nudging you, guiding you back, getting you back on track. Joseph Campbell was talking about the spirit that resides within you. The discovery of that is the beginning of all great happenings. It's not found in the great cathedrals of Europe. It's not found in the holy sites. Hidden from us, and yet in plain sight, there it is. Ernest Holmes spoke about our executive power. In our teaching, we learn to use and direct the creative forces that are at our disposal. There is power for good in the universe, greater than you, of which you are a part, and you can use that power. We have also learned to be flexible here, and that our subjective tendency, all of our baloney, our thoughts, our subjective beliefs can definitely be changed. This Holmes thought was the greatest discovery of his time. Ernest Holmes thought of this as a profound fact, and one that seems to be hidden in plain view. You can change, but you have to have the willingness to change. The road to freedom lies not in occult practices and performances, but through awakening to the power that you already possess. And learning to use that power. That's your executive power. As you discover this power and you learn its laws, you will be emancipated from all the things that have held you back and all your beliefs and superstitions. The law that we speak of is a natural law in the spiritual world. Once we have discovered this pearl, this thing of great value, long hidden, we begin to learn how to use it. You might think of Harry Potter or someone with great innate power, the wizards, right? But they need to learn how to master the use of the power. With Harry Potter, he had a school. Can't recall if it was Hogwarts School or School of Wizardry or whatever it was. There's a lot of stuff going on there, as I remember in the story, where the apprentices were developing self-mastery. We are a little bit like that. As we learn how to use power and to draw out the good that's here and available. With Harry and the wizards, they had to learn to trust that power. And they had to learn how to experiment with it, if I recall. And so it is with us in our teaching. We center ourselves in the truth and the peace of God and the power of God and the love of God. And we summon from within a certainty, a faith that what we are saying has power consciously to neutralize, erase, obliterate the opposing block or false or mental attitude. A faith, whatever it is a total, in whatever we're doing, will totally erase whatever is blocking us. Unlike Harry Potter, ours is a science. We have no potions or spells. We have a science that we use definitely. It's to be used, and we accept it as such. Their reality is no mystery. There is no mystery in reality. With our thoughts, our affirmative statements, and when we're in alignment, when our thoughts are specific, definite, clear, then they must accomplish their aim. Sometimes we wonder, well, how does all this happen? How does Spirit create? Ernest Holmes commented that no one ever entirely plumbed the depths of either the conscious mind or the subconscious mind. In both directions, we reach out to infinity, and there is not a there. In the 2020s, we double all human knowledge every single day or so. And this question cannot be answered. We shall always be expanding and we shall always be enlarging our capacity to know and to experience more of life. So far, there is no answer, no reason given as to why the truth is true. Holmes was asked, how can spirit of itself create a new form? And he answered simply, I do not know. And as Isaac Newton said, the fact that we are able to announce the mystery is the mystery. We do not say to the physicist who has studied and photographed the atom, why does it act why does it act as it does? He knows no more about the reason for its action than we do. And that he knows that he has learned something of the way the laws of nature operate. That's all we can say for ourselves. We do not create laws, we do not create principles, but we discover them and we make use of them. Let us accept this relative to spiritual laws as well and see what we can do with them. I have a couple of summary ideas for you this morning. Quotations. The first from Carl Sagan, who you will all remember. If we ever reach the point where we think where we thoroughly understand who we are and where we came from, we will have failed. And I'm going to close with a statement by Marcelo Gleiser. We strive toward knowledge, always more knowledge, but we must understand that we are and will remain surrounded by mystery. And so it is.